Hey guys, what's going on? It's Gheesling. Welcome to episode 54 of the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Whether you're tuning in from Skokie, Illinois with your Potbelly Pig, maybe you're taking the subway between the Main Street and exit 75. I don't know if that's a real exit, but nonetheless, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode. It means a lot. It's 54 episodes in. It's rare that I do, but I checked in. I Googled Dan Gheesling podcast, iTunes, just to see we're up to 96 reviews, just for those that are keeping count. And it's cool. I know Tyler, the podcast producer, really keeps, tight tab and tight eyes and all that kind of stuff. But it's cool to see when stuff progressively grows. And that's large in part to the people that, like yourself, that listen and perhaps share that, whether you send it to someone or you rate it on iTunes, whatever it is that you do. If you ever share it on Reddit, I've seen some people share some of the interviews on Reddit. It means a lot and helps to grow things. And also it's like a vote. It's like, hey, I like what you're doing and I want to vote for it. Not to talk about voting or anything like that, but it means a lot. That being said, another update podcast. I'm hoping I've got something brewing in the works. A little bit different of a podcast next week, in a different style interview, but I'm excited to do that. So we got another update podcast today, a little more inside baseball for individuals that like to kind of know what goes on behind the curtain, as well as, kind of some of the struggles, more or less. I'd say focus on a few of the struggles of things going on, just to a big schedule shift. But first things first, I want to talk about this past week on Twitch. Was the first week that we didn't stream at our normal time. Normally it's at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 to 3, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And because I got some stuff going on in real life, some obligations and things like that, my schedule had changed pretty drastically for the week. So my goal is to always put on 3 shows per week, ideally 99.5% of the time at the allotted time. So at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's the same reason, I've talked about a lot before. I approach Twitch like I would a television network. You tune in, same place, same day, same time, because that's what people get familiar with. That's what what works for the community. And so with that, it was a bit weird of a week. And I had to move the times. So I learned a lot in doing so. So I'm going to talk about 2 aspects of it. So I changed the schedule, meaning the times. We went live on the same days, but just at different times. I think we went, later in the day, which I know, I don't know the exact breakdown, but I know there's a large contingency of European viewers, which is not, I don't know the exact numbers. So I know it then became super late for them. But in the meantime, what I didn't do is I didn't get too bent out of the shape of it, because internally I feel, and this is whether it's right, wrong, or different, I feel like I'm not really in a position to mess around with the schedule, nor do I want to. And I feel like that's one of the things I learned early on in Twitch, or at least when I put my head down and said, okay, hey, I want to do a show, let's do it right. I knew that there weren't going to be any flaky cancellations although since the show started, the time has shifted from when we initially started. I think when we started the show, it initially started at 2 p.m. and then I think creeped back to 1 and then finally noon. But it wasn't like it didn't change overnight. It was kind of like a gradual change just based on a lot of different things. So, but what I've learned early on is that, and it's been interesting because I've gotten the question a lot lately, whether on DMs on Instagram or on Twitter, is that I'm starting to get some individuals asking for advice on, hey, I want to start a YouTube channel or Twitch channel. What do I do? And I don't want to say it's flattering, but it's kind of like, hey, like I'm still figuring it out. So not why are you asking me? I get why you're asking me, but my response is always, I always try to give very succinct advice, because really the answer is work, just work at it and try different things and test different things. But really the 2-sentence advice that I give is pick a lane, stay in it, and be consistent. And so I think what this past week proved to me was a couple things. One, because I'm not going to say that it didn't play through my head where it's like, hey, people are used to for over 2 years tuning in the same time, same days, and all of a sudden for the week it's going to be a little bit off. What is going to happen? And I didn't have an answer for it. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, maybe no one will show up. I didn't think about it in that regard, but I'm like, it's the numbers and the people that are going to be there are probably going to be different. Some of the regulars may not be there just because it's a different time. And so I went through it from a administrative or from a logistical standpoint. I think it was fine. You know, it's what I could pull off that week. And to me, the decision is always, okay, hey, look, what's better? Not having 3 shows a week or having 3 shows that are at a little bit different times than normal? And to me, the answer is always just do the best you can, and you better have 3 shows a week because that's what people are expecting. And I think I may be discrediting the fact that, you know, people can always watch the show in VOD format. I know that may not be the ideal format for a lot of people, but it was kind of cool throughout the week saying, hey, Dan, normally I can't catch your show. I watch it on VOD, but I get a chance to watch it live. So I think there were some, I don't want to say hidden benefits or hidden positives to it, but there was a little bit of concern for it, just because it's something different. And it wasn't like, hey, you're playing a new game. It was like, hey, you're doing something at a completely different time. And then I didn't think about it much, but what happens to the people that tune in Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon? You know, there's like, hey, what happened to Dan? So there's always this element of like concern regarding that. And I feel like it's not, for me, it's not something that is of high concern, because the way I look at things is so long term. So I think in the grand scheme of things, does a week and a half, because the shows are going to be a little weird this week too, but does a week and a half of deviating from the normal schedule, is that going to hurt things in the long term? Meaning, is that going to fracture and implode the community and people wanting to watch? No, the answer is no. And that's why I was able to kind of give myself permission internally to say, hey, look, you can do this and just see what happens. And after evaluating, sitting back, I think, you know, there were a couple people said, hey, they were kind of disappointed that they couldn't catch the normal shows, which I get, and I don't take that feedback lightly. And, you know, because I never want to disappoint anyone. But I think for the most part, it was pretty good. You know, I think it kind of proved to me that it's like, hey, things are not always going to be perfect and dialed in at the exact same moment you want to. And as long as you can clearly communicate that to the people that care, aka the community, then I think everything will be fine. And that's the one thing that I feel is most important, equally, if not more, in a line with, you know, starting off with someone said, hey, if you're starting on Twitch or YouTube, is, hey, pick a lane and stay consistent. Equally as important to that, but definitely thinking about now, it's more important, is just transparency. You know, just say, hey, look, here's the reason why. And, you know, and I think about that from time to time when people ask, hey, when are you going to play this game? I'm always just honest. It's like, hey, why are we not playing Tarkov? Well, there's other games that we want to play. Why are we not playing Star Citizen? There's other games that are more fun right now to play. So I think, and I don't know, I guess I've never thought about this, but I would just assume that that's how everyone on the internet creates content, but maybe not the case as well. So I think the takeaway for me is that it's like, hey, if the schedule deviates a little bit, that's okay, as long as it's not a long recurring thing and it's not communicated. So that was the logistical thing that I learned, and really kind of walked away saying, okay, hey, look, the week was good, and it was fine. So the second thing that we changed up throughout the week, because I did things a little bit different, I wanted to make things very different. And in terms of that, we played 3 different games that we haven't played on the show in a very long time. The first, we played Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, which I haven't had on the stream since the show. So when the show started, which I think I played it in like 2013 on Twitch. And so that was a lot of fun. And then the next day the next show we did Tetris 99, which we had played on the show. One thing I'll say about Tetris 99 is playing it now versus when it started, it's way more difficult now. I feel like the people that are still playing Tetris 99 now are very much more skilled than when it first started. And then the third game we played, which I have some really, I got to explain a few things about it, was we played Dark Souls 1, which was a lot of fun. But there was some hesitation for me to play Dark Souls 1 because I wanted to do something very different. And one of the individuals we interviewed on the show, Grand Pooh Bear, he has kind of a side hustle where he developed this Twitch extension. And if you don't know what a Twitch extension is, it's something like a WordPress plugin or a plugin you can install in your Twitch show. And it's called crowd control. And what crowd control allows, it's really cool in concept. It allows the live audience to change physically what happens in the game you're playing through bit donations. So it's like, hey, if you want to give our character a big head, it's 100 bits or whatever, and then the character gets 100 bits. If you want to give them invincibility, etc., etc. So you can do all these different things, which I think is really cool, that you're able to manipulate the game as an audience member. But I will say, and I wanted to try it because number one, he talked to me about it. I'm like, oh, this sounds cool. I at least want to try it once. And number two, it's something very different than we've normally done on the show. The one thing for me that felt a little weird, because I don't really do it, but it was like, it's heavily monetized, meaning that if you want something to happen in the game, you have to pay to do it. And one of my big things when I started this is I want people to watch and participate and do everything they don't have to subscribe. It's essentially free, right? You can watch Twitch, you can watch YouTube, and it's essentially free. Sure, there's elements of advertising throughout, whether it's a pre-roll ad or things like that, or if it's a Twitch bounty or something like that. There's elements of that, but that's important to me because I don't know, it's just not something that I felt overly comfortable with, but I was willing to kind of just try it for the sake of it being a really fun show. And in addition to that, it's voluntary, right? So I think that was kind of maybe the other rationalization. It's like, hey, is this crowd control extension preventing people from watching the show due to monetary restrictions or monetization? The answer is no. And so I think because of those two reasons, I think it was cool. And the way it worked out, it was a lot of fun. And I would 100% do it again, only after running it by the community, because at the end of it, I said, hey, what did you guys think? I think a lot of people enjoyed it. And a couple of the feedback pieces that I got, I was like, hey, yeah, it's really cool, but as like a once in a while thing. And that's how I felt. It's not something I'd want to do all the time, but it was something unique and fun. And it's really, it just kind of goes to my approach with everything that I do online, whether it's YouTube or Twitch. It's like, hey, you try something out, and if you hate it or the community hates it, never do it again. And if you do something and it goes over really well, or the community likes it or kind of likes it, then at least instead of pontificating and reading about it and putting a poll up in Discord, which I do a lot of the time. There's a room in our community Discord at discord.gg/Dan Gheesling that if I have something I'm thinking about doing, that's usually the first place I put it. There's a poll room, and then you can react to it. Usually it's like a Y or an N or thumbs up or thumbs down, because it gives me it takes away, I think, the risk factor for me, meaning that I don't want to do something that people don't want to see. And so if something is overwhelmingly positive or overwhelmingly something people don't want to see, then I just don't do it. But most often the case is that, if I'm thinking about something that's generally in a line with what people in the community want to see. And if not, then I readjust. One of the things I started laughing about is probably over the past month, over various different forums, whether it's YouTube, Twitch, or Discord, I've asked in probably like 2 to 3 different ways, multiple times, if the community would be interested in playing World of Warcraft for a community night, because there's a new, they're re-releasing the old Warcraft, and it's been overwhelmingly, like, not even close, overwhelmingly no one wants to play it. But I've found a way to ask it like 5 or 6 times because I think it'll be fun. But because the feedback is so one-sided, it's almost become like a meme or a joke. But internally, inside baseball, I know, hey, look, we could do it and it may be fun, but it's kind of like, well, with this many people don't want to play it for community night, then the chances are they probably know a little something that I don't, so let's not actually play it. Which I think is funny, because the answer to that question has been so consistently, no, we don't want to play it. It's almost like, all right, like the community doesn't waver in what they want to see and what they don't want to see, which I think is pretty cool. So So anyway, so with the Dark Souls crowd control monetization and everything, it was cool. I think it was a fun experience. It was really, and the other thing I walked away from this week, in particular after the Dark Souls stream, not having much to do with the crowd control, but just playing a game, a linear game again, like Dark Souls, where there's a beginning, middle, and end, as opposed to Mario Maker 2, where there's really no ending, or Tarkov, where there certainly is no ending. It was a little refreshing, and not to mention it. You know, it's one of my favorite games of all time, Dark Souls 1. It was nostalgic without really having been that long. You know, I felt like we played Dark Souls maybe 18 months ago, which really isn't that long ago, but it had like a nostalgia factor to it, not only from just playing the game, but people in the community talking about certain things about the game. And you know, at the beginning of the game, we did something nearly identical. I'm sure it was a boneheaded mistake or something nearly identical that we did the first time through. And so it really kind of just, that one of my big takeaways from this week, in addition to kind of having internal permission to say, hey, look, when things change, it's okay, is that the desire to bring back or bring a single player game back to the show. And we're at a unique point right now in the show because Mario Maker 2, I think, is humming along, meaning it's going really well. And on YouTube, it's probably, I can't even say probably anymore. It's now probably the longest, well, I would say the most viewed series we've had that's like a long-term series, where now they're, I would say they average between like anywhere between 2,500 views and, depending on, what it is, like 8 to 8,000 views. So and it's a good fit. Mario Maker is a really good fit, but Tarkov is in a weird spot now where it's tied up in limbo between, there's a big patch that's in development. When that patch hits or that content update hits, then it's going to be like a new wave of Tarkov. So for me, it's kind of the decision to or to not play Tarkov on the show. It's a multifaceted question because, number one, I talk about sticking in a lane and staying consistent with it. Tarkov is one of the two lanes, at least right now, and for an extended period of time. I still really enjoy the game. And so there, from a strategic or from, a, I don't know, macro level, is that I think a lot of other content creators that play Tarkov right now have a similar feel where it's like, hey, everyone's just waiting for 1.2. So a lot of people are experimenting in different games. So to me, there's like, hey, well, there's fewer people streaming Tarkov. Not that ever will be a primary impact on what I decide to stream or not stream. I don't really care. Like, if there's a lot of people streaming a game and I really like it, I'm going to stream it, like Mario Maker 2. If there's not a lot of people and there's an opportunity for growth, it doesn't really affect if I stream the game or not. In regards to if it's a game I really like and the community enjoys. So because, there's a large contingency of the community that enjoys watching Tarkov, it's kind of one of those decisions where it's like, hey, if you do it, I don't know, I would never abandon Tarkov, but it's cool to try and sprinkle new things in. And I look at it as a challenge. Is there a way you can put all three games into a mix or not? I don't know. But I think another thing that I learned from this past week of experimenting on Twitch is to just continue experimenting. And when people come in and ask, hey, where's Tarkov or where's so-and-so game, just be honest and say, hey, look, here's what the plan is. And it's not going anywhere. So I don't know if I really gave any finite decision on this, but Tarkov's not going anywhere. Mario Maker 2 is not going anywhere. But there is now a stronger desire for me for a couple reasons. One, it was a lot of fun to play Dark Souls. There's a stronger decision for me, or inclination for me, to mix it up more, because I think a lot of people enjoyed it. And I continually am getting feedback, and it's sometimes the gut feel that people like seeing different things in addition to Tarkov and Mario, whether it's Sims and now Dark Souls. It's just kind of a feel thing. And that's my feel right now, is that it may be time to introduce the start of a new game. How that looks, I don't know. But I think it's probably going to look different than how we've had in the past. Maybe it's one day a week. The second part of the show is the continuation of whatever story game we're playing. I don't know. But there's something to it. And I don't have the answer yet, but it's like anything else. I'm going to mess around with it, experiment with it, and then I'll report back here and let you guys know how it goes. So, in addition to other things kind of hanging out there, is this week I'm going to finalize and interview the last couple writers and make that decision. I'm excited to start having the audio transcript turned into an article. I think it's going to be really helpful to a lot of people, and also help kind of distribute things that we're doing here. The other thing that's been a focus of mine, and like I said, the past week and really the next week is going to be a little bit hectic in terms of hectic being a non-normal schedule, is that YouTube, I've been down to 1 video a day where normally there's 2, and it's just due to time constraints. And it's been odd that I've been like really internally okay with not cranking out videos. But at the same time, because of that, it's like an ebb and flow in life. Because of that, now I have a more desire to ramp it up now, because I know the past 10 days have been quote unquote slow meaning just 1 video a day. And I'm gonna, in particular, there's a game called Dicey Dungeon. I want to take a first look at it. There's a reaction video that I want to do. I think it'll be a lot of fun and people will enjoy it. But there's just kind of like, you kind of ebb and flow. And because I've had some time away from YouTube, meaning only doing 1 video a week, it's like you come back with more creative ideas. So I'm excited to do that. And the other thing that happened this past week was we did, for Team Unity, we mixed it up and we played this game that's essentially, it's a social game, a game in which there's gameplay elements to it, but it's called Project Winter. But the majority of the game is, it's like a social deception game. And it really went over really well. And I think a lot of people enjoyed it. A lot of people enjoyed watching it after the fact on the second YouTube channel, youtube.com/DanGheesling But I tweeted something out about it on Twitter, and it said, hey, a game like that's so heavily focused on non-gameplay elements, meaning it's focused on the cast and the people playing it. I think from an entertainment standpoint, you got to be really careful with burning a game like that out for 2 reasons. One, people, I believe, will enjoy seeing it more rarely as like a special occasion as opposed to every single week. And then the second thing is that the cast members or the people that are on the particular show, because this game, there were 8 people that played it, don't get burned out as well. And it's not like a game like PUBG where it's like you want to play it more so you can get better. This is so socially dynamic where I feel very strongly about, I think it's a great once a quarter or once every couple months game as like a special event. But to do it every week, I think it would lose a lot of its luster and a lot of excitement from both the community as well as the people playing it. So I wanted to talk about that because it's really a unique thing and very unlike other things we've done on Team Unity, but I think a lot of people enjoyed that. So that being said, I'm excited for this upcoming week. It's going to be another sampled, like, changing things up week. And I'm hoping for next week we'll have a special interview, and I'm going to do that live. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Hope you got some value from it. Thank you guys for all the love. I've been getting a lot more DMs and stuff like that lately, and it means a lot to me. So thank you guys so much. And as always, I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you guys next Monday, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the next podcast. Enjoy the minis throughout the week. I think the guys are doing a great job with those, in particular Tyler, putting those together. And as always, if you have any feedback on the show, what you like to hear, what you don't like to hear, something that sparked a conversation or question in your head, you feel free to tweet me at Dan Gheesling or send me a DM on Instagram, and I will catch you guys next time. Thank you so much for listening.